It's a big summer ahead for Super Eagles talisman and CAF African Player of the Year Victor Osimhen, as rumors and speculations continue to link him away from the city of Naples and from Napoli, who he led to a historic Scudetto in 2023, and that was their first title in 33 years. And we understand that Osimhen is on the wish list of the very best and in Europe, and of course he's a priority target for most heavyweights across the continent. They'll jump at the chance of making the face of their project. Now today on Afrosport Now in Focus, we take a careful look at what represents the best for his career, as reports now suggest that he has a reported release clause of around 120 million euros. And well, to now have that conversation, we know Victor is at a crossroads on the next direction of his career. So we have to, of course, introduce who's with me in the studio to discuss this topic. It's, of course, time to take a measured look around it. And Ibigile Salako is here with me. Of course, you also see the stats on the screen, and you look at the club options, you look at his numbers from last season. You also look at, players that Napoli have struggled to sell in the past. But again, like I said, Ibigile Salako is here with me, in-house researcher here at Afrosport. And that's great to have you on the show. And the first question really is, you look at his numbers from last season, 15 goals from 25 appearances to thereabouts. He didn't start all of them, by the way. But what do you make of, his last season in Italy?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great being on Afrosport Now in Focus. First of all, we all know how renowned Osimhen is in Europe. I think last season was a fairly good season for him, coming off the fact that a season prior to that, he was the first African to win the Capocannoniere trophy in Italy. That's the Golden Boot. I think he notched about 25 or 26 goals that season. But last season, he had a lot of injuries, and for some reasons, he affected a lot of teams in Europe, in England, in Spain. A lot of key players were injured for some weird reasons. He came to the AFCON also. Didn't really get as much goals as he would have loved. But was really integral in helping the Super Eagles get to the final of the tournament. So a fairly good season for a guy that set the standards really high for himself.
We also need to look at, the entirety of his time in Italy. This is his league appearances, a good number of appearances, and I think he's got like 65 goals in Serie A across 4 seasons, decent numbers. Also, the assists he's provided is not bad. It's a very good attacking outlet.
For me, I think when we judge players, I tend to look at the teams they are playing for and the structure of the team at that particular moment. When he got to Napoli, 2020-2021 season, he was fairly young. Was a really young guy, just made a name for himself in Lille, bagged a couple of goals in Lille. Came down to Italy, very tough league. Napoli weren't at the top at that moment, And let's not forget that he was replacing arguably one of the best strikers in the history for Napoli, Higuain, who broke the record for the most goals scored in a season in Serie A. He also had the likes of Dries Mertens, who proven goal scorer, Napoli's all-time top scorer. You had Lorenzo Insigne, big names there. And, he came there fairly well, 24 matches, scored 10 goals, 3 assists. But from the 2021-22 season,
he got that pace.
Got that pace, started becoming a man of his own. Even played more games, 27 matches, 14 goals. Then the 2022-23 season was just iconic and spectacular for himself, for a lot of Napoli guys, and for the team as a whole, winning their first Scudetto in about 33 years,
Even in the Cups, he didn't do badly. The Champions League, he's got like 7 goals for them across 2 seasons, and 2 very important goals in the mix as well. And you look at the Coppa Italia, he didn't score there, but you could really judge his statistics and say he's had more impact in the league, where he plays more consistently.
He has, but when you look at Europe also, you could remember, like we keep mentioning the 2022-23 season. That was a really defining season, or has been the most defining season of his career so far. 6 matches in the Champions League, scored 5 goals, helped Napoli get to, I think, the quarterfinals when they lost over 2 legs to AC Milan. He even scored in the second leg of that tie. I think he backed 2 goals in the round of 16. So all in all, the 2022-23 season was really moments defining for Osimhen and for Napoli. But last season was in that, by a lot of injuries for the young man. He didn't really, when you have injuries being a striker, because as a striker, you're expected to score goals. You're expected to give your team return in goals and assists. What injury does is it hampers your flow. It hampers your steadiness. So you play 3-4 games, you score 2 goals, thinking, okay, let's kickstart from here. Then you get injured. Out for a week, out for 2 weeks.
And that makes you lose your rhythm.
Definitely. So your rhythm is lost. your confidence, and strikers live off confidence. They live off scoring goals. Your confidence is a bit down, and that happens a lot of time. But when you look at the numbers they put up last season, 25 games, didn't start a lot of those 25 games, and he still came up with I think 15 goals and 2 assists in Serie A. In the Champions League, 6 matches, scored 2 goals. Those are big numbers for any striker in Europe.
Absolutely. Now, they've put up a reported release clause, 120 million euros. And we've also seen his numbers as well. Do you think that price tag, the asking price, is a fair reflection of his value at the moment in the current market?
Well, personally, I'd say so, because you can't judge. Most owners, most managers, most sporting directors in Europe know that, oh, you can't judge this guy by what he did last season. What he did last season was fairly good. You look at other strikers in Europe that went for 80 million, 90 something million, 100 million. They didn't even score as much as 15 goals last season in the league alone. He scored 15 goals in the league in a disjointed Napoli side. I think he played under about 2 or 3 managers last season alone.
Yeah,
Napoli had
about 4 of them.
Yeah, Napoli had fairly, Spalletti left. I think they brought in was it Ramos or Santos, the former Roma coach.
Yeah.
They brought in the coach of Slovakia at the moment. So quite a really disjointed team, and it wasn't just him. He even affected Kvaratskhelia, Maradona,
as they called him.
Yeah, affected a lot of these guys, and the rhythm was a bit down for the team. So
I think the team lacked identity, and coming from the previous season, he was the arrowhead.
Yeah, and he still managed to get 15 goals. So I think most sporting directors, most team managers look at it, okay, what if he had been fit? What if he didn't have as much injuries as he had last season? Season prior, he had almost, I think, about 30-something goals in Europe, The next season, I think he scored about 18, or he struggled to get about 20 goals. But you look at the amount of games he played, you look at the numbers, the return. So 120 million for him is not bad. And you also have to think about the contract. Because when you're signing a player, you're not just signing his likeness. You have to also buy the contract he had, with the previous. And everybody knows in Europe that Aurelio De Laurentiis is a really tough man to do.
The toughest negotiators you can deal with.
He reminds me of a certain Daniel Levy of Tottenham.
Yeah.
Really, really difficult man to do business with. So I think 120 million is justifiable for the tag, for the person that Osimhen is, for who he has
the brand, for
over
his
the last
ability, the skill as well.
And let's not forget that he's the reigning African Player of the Year.
Absolutely. That's why I mentioned the brand. Anyways, I would, of course, still dive into more aspects of this topic. And welcome back to Afrosport Now in Focus. The topic is still all about CAF African Player of the Year, the reigning one. That's Victor Osimhen. His future is up for debate, and of course, we have to consider now the controversies around him and how it influences his future. Nigeria's Minister of Sports, Johnny No, he said recently that, look, the priority now is not to sort out the feud between himself, Victor Osimhen that is, and the now outgone coach of the Super Eagles, that's Finidi George. We of course know what happened already, how it was an outburst on social media, how of course many things that happened, trickle down effects to all that happened in the media. But the question really is now, what have you made of it? What's your reading, and how does this influence? I'm beginning to wonder how it influences his move. I mean, top clubs, top representatives of clubs, coaches, they've seen him and they'll be wondering, is this our kind of player?
Well, all of this is just my own opinion anyways. I think he's not covered himself in glory. You're the reigning African Footballer of the Year. That's what we said just before we went for that break. Reigning African Footballer of the Year. If the most expensive Nigerian signing ever in Europe, one of the top most expensive African signings in Europe, you're literally the poster boy for African football at the moment. So there has to be some decorum in some of your dealings. When I saw the videos, when I saw some of those things he said and what he did on social media, he left a bad taste in my mouth, because you have a certain respect, a level of respect for what he's done as a footballer. Some of the philanthropic things he's even done as a human being. And I understand the place of anger. I understand the place of reaction. But another thing that you need to understand is you represent a nation. You represent a brand. You represent so many people that are looking up to you. A
continent too.
You understand? So there are different ways in which you can handle issues. Some of the curses, some of the swear words, some of the things he said that obviously we can't say on air. He was in bad taste. So I think, the way sport works, you're not just selling your talent. You're selling who you are as a person. You're trying to convince those people that want to put their own money on you that, okay, I'm going to give you my talent. I'm going to work hard for you, but I'm also going to carry myself in a certain light. I'm going to improve, my own ability, but also my human nature. So when certain clubs, when certain managers, when sporting directors look at that video, He leaves a sad
Exactly,
taste in
because
their
now
mouth.
the sad taste is a big deal
Yeah.
at this point. How do you think that now influences, because he's supposed to be at the top of the wish list of these clubs. How do you think this influences the direction that he would chart
I think
now?
it's a double-edged sword. I think it does influence it negatively, but there's also a positive aspect to it. There's a positive aspect to it because certain players get caught certain slack. Remember the great Eric Cantona of Manchester United. He literally jump kicked the fan in the stand.
Oh yeah.
And Ferguson went to war with him, went to war for him. You understand? We've heard stories about Maradona. We've heard stories about players doing crazy things here and there. I'm not trying to cut him some slack, but I'm saying sometimes talent overshadows some of these things.
Yeah.
So when clubs know that, oh, we need you for your talent, they understand that, okay, it's not like something that he does every day. This was a one-time thing, probably maybe a moment of weakness from him. So there's that aspect of, oh, his talent could positively help him. But negatively, it damages his brand. Because now teams get to understand that rows happen, issues happen, anything could happen. Then there's a case of, oh, what if this happens in our club? Is this the way he is going to react to our coach? So that is there too.
Okay, I understand that at some point in the show we should have Chibuzo Ozorumba, former CAF Champions League winner with Enyimba, and also now a football agent, because he can give us a reading to how some of these clubs will perceive the situation at this point, all right? But we should also begin to look at clubs that he could move to, look at the club options. Paris Saint-Germain in France. France is a familiar terrain for him.
Yeah.
And you look at two clubs in England, Arsenal, Chelsea. I might even want to add Manchester United, I dare say. And then there's been a big offer from Saudi Arabia as well.
I like the fact that under the club options, there's just Saudi Arabia there. Because, the way they sign players is funny. They sign you and they just send you somewhere. But PSG, I think, is the most viable option on the list. Obviously, there's big money coming from Saudi, Al Nassr, Al Hilal, Al Ettifaq, all of those teams, Al Nassr. But my thing is, PSG looks like they just lost a big name.
In Kylian Mbappe.
Okay. So they need another big man, another enforcer. Unless, for a large part of this season, Mbappe played as a top 9 for PSG, which is what
Victor
allowed us
come and do.
It allowed us to see a lot of emergence from that PSG team. There was Bakula who they needed on the wings, Dembele is on the wing. So I think they need a top 9, a fearsome 9, a 9 that puts fear in the opponent. So I think if I were to be probably his agent or one of his advisors, I'd say if PSG comes knocking, definitely you should go there.
Now, I want us to also look at the players that in times past they've struggled to sell. I mean, talking about Napoli, because it has really happened sometimes. Back then in 2012, when they said they sold Edison Cavani, they got some 50 million euros for him. But of course, if you ask them, they will have wanted more. There was a point when Kalidou Koulibaly, Senegalese defender, was priced at 250 million. I know that's incredible. Unreal, in fact.
True.
So, of course, that's how we have to wrap things up. Thank you very much, Ibikunle Salako, as well, for being a part of the show. And we'll see where the future leads Victor Osimhen. But for now, we are led to conclude the program. Thank you very much for watching. And of course, you can be a part of the conversation on social media handles at Afrosport TV on all platforms. You could also visit our website, www.afrosportnow.com. My name is Ayomide Shodubo. I'll see you next time.